Recently, Mayor Katie Wilson's 60-member transition team released a final report. Now that Wilson has been in office for 2 months, this signals the end of the, quote, transition. And we're digging into that report today. What stood out to us, what it means, and what it didn't mention that's on our wish list, like journalism vouchers, maybe? Plus, as always, we're going to bring our weekend Rex. Here to discuss are Marcus Harrison Green, founder of the South Seattle Emerald and Hinton Publishing. Welcome, Marcus.
Great to be here, Jane.
And we have Lex Vaughn, founder and editor of The Needling, Seattle's only real fake news. Welcome, Lex.
Hi, good morning.
All right, let's get into this transition report. First of all, is this report common? Like, what feels different from previous mayoral approaches here?
Yeah, I mean, I will say, like, as long as I've lived in Seattle, and obviously you can fact check me here in real time, and I'm sure some of our listeners will, but I haven't seen a report actually come out of these transition teams. I know transition teams themselves are common. Like, for instance, our previous mayor, Bruce Harrell, had 129-member transition team.
I remember that.
And I couldn't tell you what came out of that, quite frankly. We can get into the details of the actual report, but I'll say this, in terms of there actually being a report, I typically I don't think there is one. These transition
I was
teams
gonna
just
say, I'm like,
quietly disband. Like,
am I the only one who didn't know that was a thing?
You're in good company, Lex. You're in good company.
Good.
We had King County Executive Gurmai Zahalai also take office. Recently he had a transition team that I think it was over 80 people.
It's also quite a large one.
It was a large one. I haven't yet seen a transition report from that. I'm not sure if there is one coming, but I let's just say I wouldn't be surprised if nothing does come. So
yeah. So, okay, big takeaways up top based on what the 60-person team heard Seattleites want: housing preserved and produced faster, safer streets and parks through prevention, partnerships, shelter support, and coordinated response, sustainable support for artists, small businesses, and working families, a government that breaks down silos and measures what it promises, young people at the table with real influence, civil rights that are defended not just in statements but in operations, and a civic narrative that articulates what Seattle stands for, how decisions align with shared values, and how major initiatives advance a coherent vision for the city's future. No big surprises there. Like, looking at that list, I'm like, these all seem kind of like uncontroversially positive things. What do we gain from a report like this? Like, who is it for? And is this just a recapitulation of Katie Wilson's campaign promises, or does it move the administration forward in some way?
I'm like, I guess this is just a confirmation that she's like, yes, I was correct. These are the things I would be doing. Like, okay, good.
Yeah, Lex, like, I did not see it as revelatory. You know what I mean? Like, there's like nothing out of the blue where it's like,
yes,
oh my God,
correct.
I did not expect that.
I mean, outside of this report come out, this week, talk of the tiny house villages and like a more sincere, it seems, intent to really move that stuff fast. And I'm sure part of why she extra wants to focus on that this year is also the World Cup coming to Seattle this summer. And
hopefully coming still. Yeah.
Woohoo!
Yeah, up in the air a little.
So many things about to happen.
Well, Lex, going back to what you were saying about, so the first item on this list was housing, and this week Wilson announced new bills that would raise the number of people who could live in tiny home villages from 100 to 250. It also allocates, there's another bill that allocates $4.8 million towards funding shelter and services, and one that allows the city's director of finance and administrative services, instead of the shelter providers, to sign lease agreements with property owners, which feels, very inside baseball wonky, but essentially it frees up some time and allows the city to handle this instead of having it fall to
matters,
Yeah. And this is all part of Wilson's goal to open 1,000 new units of shelter in her first year. And she says this is going to lay the groundwork for that. So it seems like there are already tangible steps Wilson is trying to take towards some of these goals that the transition team has laid out. There's a lot covered in this 30-page report, and obviously we're not going to get to all of it, but was there anything that stood out to you all in particular?
I almost look at this as something sort of akin to, and I hate to invoke his name, but the Clinton administration during their I think second year in office after it was looking like things were sort of a disaster, and he was like, you know what, F this. From now on, we're going to poll everything, we're going to test everything, and there will be no policy that comes through unless I can point to this is what people said that they actually want, more, over 50 people. And I think this is a document certainly earlier on in the Wilson administration where she can potentially point to, and the administration can potentially point to and say, hey, these are the things we're focusing on because this is the things that Seattleites say that they care about. I'm not guessing. I'm not throwing darts here. This is what people have said that they care about, and this is what we're working on. So that, if she, let's say, gets attacked by an editorial in the Seattle Times, which has already happened, she can say, hey, well, this is what I'm moving forward, and this is why I'm doing so.
Lex, did anything stand out to you?
I like the intention of like I think cutting red tape creatively. I think in the past administration and during kind of the last city council set of city council people, there was a lot of sabotage for like simple solutions. Like Tammy Morales left out of frustration for just like little fixes that were being avoided, just because of kind of like petty, like
Yeah.
win-lose arguments. And it's nice that I think we're, in general, going in a better direction.
Yes.
Even though the city council, I think, needs a few more good
Lex.
people on it, we're heading in a better direction for just a little bit more like common sense. Like, just
Yes.
make this easier to make, low-income housing available. Just more services available. There's little simple things you
Yes.
can do to make it a profoundly easier thing to happen for everyone.
Lex, I gotta ask you real quick. It did, to your point about it being petty. It did seem like the last city council had like a PhD in petty at times.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I really don't think it's an exaggeration to say it was almost Trumpian. Like, even though we're Seattle and we're supposedly this beacon of liberal and progressive thought, there was a lot of immaturity on that. Not just the conservative thinking, but flat out immaturity, win-lose pettiness.
Speaking of, I do feel like it's tough to make sure that even when people are generally on the same page about things, making sure everyone's rowing in the same direction. So one thing that stood out to me was reading the section about climate. So it mentioned in the takeaways that climate and safety are emergency issues, they're not long-term abstractions, and that people want action, not endless process. And this is the part that stuck out the most to me. Connected systems change behavior better than piecemeal fixes. And that got me thinking about Seattle as part of this larger system that we exist in, right? Like, the city doesn't operate in a vacuum. Even just at the regional level, what Seattle does and what King County do are very closely aligned. And
Right.
I know when Gurmai Zahalai took office, he did a big restructuring, which included dismantling and reassigning many members of many teams, including the climate team. And Zahalai's office has said, that doesn't change your commitment to climate and equity, but it does have real consequences for slowing people down as they're figuring out what their new roles are, how to work with each other. Like, I mean, I've heard just from the grapevine that some people are kind of concerned about what this means for long-term projects since everything is getting shifted. What can we as a city do when we're hamstrung by larger governmental forces? I mean, I guess I'm also thinking about just the federal government not necessarily agreeing with us about the importance of climate and safety and equity.
Under a Trump administration, both the last time and this time, I think a lot of states like ours and cities like ours have had to think, like, we really need to be prepared to fend for ourselves. You'd like to think we're part of a country where we're all working together and all, bringing what we can to a team. But, like during the pandemic, the peak of the pandemic, it was like, wow, like we're really on our own. Like we're really like hoping Jay Inslee, Dow Constantine and Jenny Durkin can keep us alive because that's what we got. And who knows what we're up against now? It's all still very like mercurial. Like, you don't know what funding is going to be there or not. So I think it's productive for us to really think of like how are we going to be here for ourselves no matter what happens.
Yeah, we have to. Again, I guess I'm the resident person who does the sports, analogies, but I mean, it's, the Seahawks had the mantra for a while, like, we're all we got and we're all we need. I mean, that's just pretty much
Mm.
what's, happening regionally. And I'll say, I mean, look at King County Council, right? We have our first, immigrant executive. Look at our mayor. She's our third woman, I want to say, who's ever been elected. I mean, those are quite frankly two identities that the Trump administration doesn't exactly hold in high esteem. So
What?
so I hear. I don't, I allegedly. So I mean, I think, regardless, I think there was going to be sort of a targeted and antithesis, if you will, to what our city and county is doing. And so it just makes sense now to sort of, while things aren't as bad. I mean, to quote, I guess, JFK, like the best time to repair the roof is when the sun is shining outside before it starts to storm. We really need to get some level of cohesion together. I will say that through sources, I'll just say that I do know that the mayor and the King County executive and the governor, as well as Nick Brown, our attorney general, they have been coordinating in terms of, a response
Would
to
love to see that text thread.
to certain things, specifically ICE and what this administration is doing. And, hopefully those dialogues continue on, and hopefully there is no, hopefully not saying that anybody's petty or anything, and in this particular cohort of governance, but hopefully there is no pettiness, and people can put the needs of the city and county and state ahead of their own egos.
I found myself comforted by this report in a way, just because it felt like a return to a decorum that I haven't seen in politics in a while. Like,
The return to
I
decorum,
appreciate-
Jane. This is a return to work. Okay.
Yeah.
People actually
just
people doing real
Just
things.
I just
doing
tell people to
anything.
buck. There are so many people who have said, I won't anonymously, have been like, no, people actually have to come to work in this administration and not just get a 6-figure job and call it a day. And I would just leave that there. I'll just leave that there. Okay.
I mean, I think the bar is in hell, because I literally was like, it's cool that our mayor is not communicating exclusively through Groyper memes. There's an
Oh my
actual
God.
report, and someone formatted it really nicely. Shout out to whoever formatted it. I found it comforting to have this organized document that clearly like real thought and work went into.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, let's take a break, and when we come back, let's talk about what wasn't in that report. Okay, so we've talked a little about what stood out to us. Is there anything that you feel was missing that you would have liked to see?
This isn't me, but I do know some people there in the Black community were hopeful that there would, be something about some level of look. I just want to be honest. There's probably not reparations that any city can actually do, but just some level of sort of repair or acknowledgement, I guess, with some of the plights of the Black community. So I think that's something that I have heard other folks say that they wish had been mentioned, quite frankly.
Lex, is there anything that stood out to you?
I think I can kind of understand focusing on a couple issues at first, because I think this year really is going to be like seen as like Seattle heading into the World Cup, being in the spotlight this summer. So it's like, what can we do to like prepare the city for that spotlight? And then I think there's probably going to be maybe a little bit more of a before and after like World Cup kind of view on policy.
I'm hopeful that her repetition of the 1,000 units of shelter in the first year means that she's really committed to sticking to it. Because I feel like you see all too often someone will run on a campaign of making
Yeah.
some promises, and then you never hear about those promises ever again. So
We have some neatling jokes about that. Yeah.
And I hope she's doing the thing where she's like under promising and over delivers, where she's saying 1,000 and we get 1,500 or 2,000 or something.
that'd be amazing.
And I like seeing that the city council is considering, like a moratorium on all kinds of detention expansion right
Yes.
now.
Right. Well, one thing that I noticed was missing and that we talked a little bit about on our CityCast team was that there's an entire section of the report dedicated to civic narrative, which focused mainly on arts and culture. So the transition team said that the core principles they heard were that shared civic narrative can unite people across differences and that trust is built through delivery, not just messaging alone. I'm certainly biased here, and I think probably all of us here today are a little bit biased towards it, but I do feel like local journalism and media are important aspects of that civic narrative. And I know during Wilson's campaign, she had brought up the potential of adding news vouchers, which would be kind of like the democracy vouchers we have to support candidates. But do you all remember this? Is this a thing she's ever going to come
Yes.
back to?
I remember it very well. I will just say that I believe that is something that is still a priority for this administration. And I'll just say that.
Okay, Marcus has some.
But in all seriousness, yeah, I mean, I do think that that is something that is still very much a priority and focus. And I would be surprised if we don't hear something from this administration about that in the next few months.
Oh.
And I will just say that.
Okay.
I think all of us definitely would like some more financial support for our work.
Hey.
I do think it's an interesting idea. Maybe Seattle could be a place where we experiment with that. We just see what happens. I think that is worth it because the media landscape is horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, as you see these I think it is gaining relevance as we see this giant merger. In the film world.
Yes.
I mean, media consolidation's been happening since forever, but it's getting significantly worse. And we need to really kind of reinvigorate a conversation with people. Like, how are you investing in local news and in independent news? Because I know a lot of people, it's like they're just getting it for free and they're like,
Yes.
I
Right.
see your little call to donate
Yes.
$5 a month, but I'm gonna just act like I didn't see that. It's like that
Thank
is
you.
really making it harder. If you can afford to part with $5 for 2 or 3 independent media outlets, do it
Yeah.
now. It's very hard. People are operating on a shoestring.
Cosign.
But yeah,
So, okay, to
yeah.
back up a little bit,
Go ahead.
this news voucher program the details of it obviously would still need to be worked out. I don't know that there's been any official word on what that might look like, but
Yeah,
it sounds like from
even
Marcus,
though there's been official criticism, there's been no official policy to criticize. But yes, go ahead.
one floated potential structure for this would be very similar to our democracy voucher program, which, by the way, if people don't know about, you get just free $25 vouchers to assign to candidates you want to support during elections. And it's basically just free money you could be giving to a candidate you want to support. And in the same way, this would take, I think about $10 million was one of the potential models floated that would give voters 2 or maybe 3 $50 vouchers that they could
I believe
give.
it was 4 $50 ones.
4 $50 vouchers. Okay, so you could assign $200 to local outlets in some
$50 to the
fashion.
Needland, $50 to City Cast, $50 to South Seattle Emerald.
Yes.
Sincerely,
There you go.
Here's
$50
my
your choice.
Here's my main question as Seattle's only real fake news. Where do I land in this? Am I real journalism or not?
Sometimes your journalism is more real than some of the headlines I see. Lex.
You're a little
it
bit
touches
more...
a vein that only parody can touch,
In fiction, you can say things that other journalists can't because if you're technically a journalist, you could be sued for libel.
I think that's what the great thing about the vouchers is, as conceived, is that you're allowing the people to choose, right? This is truly like a participatory budgeting thing. We're seeing that the model of sort of the benevolent billionaire has failed, right? Look at the Washington Post and what's going on there. Look at the Los Angeles Times, right? So why should something as vital as you know, independent news be in the hands of folks who may or may not steward it correctly, right? It should be, if this is a public utility, and I believe that media is, right? It's one of the few institutions that is listed in our Constitution. It's one of the few things that I believe it was Jefferson pointed to and said, if I could have government without media or media without government, he would choose media without government, right? Because it's just that important. And so something that is that important and has been that important since the foundation of this country, then we need to resource it. We just do.
I do think that there are open questions about who would be eligible. I feel like satire is important. I mean, so many people have gotten their news from satire news sources because satire is able to say something that journalists typically can't. Right. However, there have been some critiques of this possibility. So I know the Seattle Times ran an op-ed about it last summer, opposing it, saying that it would undermine trust in the independence of local news, and potentially that the biggest beneficiaries of this would be partisan niche outlets that advance political narratives favored by Wilson or voucher proponents. Mm-hmm. What do you all think of that?
Like they're not biased.
Well, one, I would say, what is the proof of that? Because there was no policy that was being pointed to at by the author of that piece. And like I like Briar Dudley, I truly do. I do think that it's hard to critique a policy that doesn't actually exist yet. And I also will say, I think that I would lob a criticism back in saying that I think that it sets up so that it would threaten a monopoly of the number one, circulated newspaper in Seattle, in the sense that the Seattle Times is, quite frankly. And like, I
guess a lot of people might give their vouchers to the Seattle Times, actually.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a lack of confidence that they don't think that they would get enough support from that. But a real question I have about this voucher program is where do you draw the line on who gets it? Do you just kind of factor in that, I don't think Brandy Cruz is based in Seattle, but would she be eligible? Would people who are not based in Seattle be able to get that? How
From what I believe is folks who aren't based in Seattle and don't directly serve a mainly Seattle audience, who I believe would not be qualified for it. As far and again, that's not
the
ironclad.
Not set in stone. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's an interesting experiment that you could do on even a small scale. The democracy voucher thing is $100. Maybe you could start very small and be like, this is a $25 voucher program. I don't know.
Or you start really big and give us all $1 million.
Or you're like, no, go big. Yeah, I know.
Well, so but just quickly.
There, I solved it, you guys.
But quickly to the earlier point, I do think a lot of people do really like the Seattle Times, right? And so, even folks who I know who don't necessarily like their editorial board, they still like the reporting. They still like some of the journalists there. And so, I do think that they, in some ways, would be, cutting off their nose to spite their face.
They've got some really great reporters, and I really hope that anyone listening, no matter how you feel about the state of media in general, can recognize that there are lots of hardworking reporters doing great work at many outlets. All right, well, we'll see if in a few months there is more news about that. I know the three of us would be excited to see more information about that, but let's leave it there. And when we come back, let's talk about our weekend recs. It is Friday again. Hooray. What brought you all joy this week?
My gosh, what a blur. What a blur life is.
Was there any joy this week?
Okay, I did see one positive thing. Officially, the Supreme Court didn't take up a case that kind of preserved that AI cannot be copyrighted, which is a big deal, but that's a national thing. Local. Do you got something, Marcus?
Marcus.
Yeah, for me, it's actually something that my father did this earlier this week. So without getting into too much detail, he's been having some health issues recently, and but he ended up he's somewhat recovered, and he ended up going to this Safeway in Rainier Beach, and he was passing by an aisleway, and he saw a man, unfortunately, knock his girlfriend down to the floor, and she had a child, a baby, with her, and the man was about to stomp on her, and the man said that he had told her that if she had mouthed off again, what he was going to do. And so my father stepped in and he said, what the F are you doing? You can't be doing this to somebody. And so the man threw a can of beans at my father, and
What is happening?
yeah, and so my
What?
father then went ahead
We're
and
waiting for this to turn around here.
yeah. So my father threw a can of beans back at him, and knocked the guy in the face, and then security was able to come and detain the man, obviously, and the woman came up and thanked my father for helping her out. And then there was a another woman who saw what happened, and she was like, I don't know if that was like the most Christian thing to do, and in encountering the man. And he said, well, lady, the God I serve says that you whoop somebody's ass if they're
Yeah.
if they're hurting somebody. And so just shout out to my dad. Grant you, like,
Yeah.
our whole family was like, Dad, you are an older man, 72 years old. You don't know what this guy had, if he had a gun or a weapon. But I mean, I think that being said, I think it's always good when good Samaritans can step in and help people.
Yes.
So
Hell yeah, your
Yeah.
dad.
Yeah, I think that's inspiring.
Still got it?
He's
Throwing
still,
a can of beans at a...
No. I think we can enter an era right now where it's like, I think we got to do a little more than using words. And I say that as somebody who's based a whole kind of life and career on words. I think there's some situations where you really got to step up physically.
Absolutely.
And that's great that he did that.
I hope that
Yeah.
woman and her child have the support they need to get out of that situation also.
Yeah, I do as well.
A highlight of my week. I started teaching the Needling's Real Fake newsroom workshop
Fun.
for this month, and I really always love the new people we have that want to learn how to write satire. It's fun, kind of going over like great headlines and workshopping stuff.
I should
So,
take that class at some
It is
point.
really fun. I mean, I
Yeah.
know I'm biased, but it's always a good group of people too. Yeah.
Nice. Well, I went to Mojito in Maple Leaf this
Ooh.
week. So if you all aren't familiar with Mojito, they recently moved. I believe they opened in their new location about 6 months ago, but there was a whole thing with moving to their new location that it took a while longer for them to get it all prepped than they were initially anticipating. The owner is just the sweetest guy in the whole world. Like, in fact, if you look up Mojito on like Google, I feel like all of the reviews are like really chatty, sweet owner. But it felt really nice to just be in their new space, which was gorgeous, and see so many people out in Maple Leaf for lunch.
Yeah.
So if you all haven't been back to Mojito since they reopened, definitely go check them out.
Do they used to have like salsa nights or rumba nights? Or am I thinking
Oh,
of-
maybe.
am
I don't
thinking
think I
of
knew
different
about that, but it definitely seems like the kind of place that, and now with their larger location, I could definitely see that
Mhm.
space being used for something like that.
That's awesome. I definitely want to just reiterate to people like joy is resistance. It's not an excuse to not do the resistance, but
Yes.
it's a like keep up the little sparks of joy. Like
Mm.
garden, like plant
100%.
something beautiful. I've learned how to make like a new cheese in the last week because it's like I just need something new and positive. I'm like I cannot only think about the horrors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of,
That
speaking of, what are you all doing this weekend that you recommend, or that you recommend people go check out?
Yeah, I would say like I really really love Lucy's Bottle Shop, which I found out about last week. They are a queer owned wine shop, and I will say, and they also only, I believe, exclusively sell wines made by BIPOC and queer winemakers. And so you're also going to support, some great winemakers and some great wineries. And those things are always, it's a difficult business. So to be able to support folks who make great wine and who happen to also be from historically, shall we say, underinvited communities to the wine industry is always great. Also, it's just like a chill, cool vibe. And so if you're just out to getting your old person chill on, just go there, sip a little Lambrusco,
Nice.
and just let it just watch the world through the window.
I've realized that I've ridden my bike past there roughly 8 billion times and never stopped there. So next time I got to do that.
Yeah, drink up, Jane. Drink up. Yes.
Lex, what about you? What are you doing this weekend? Or what do you recommend people go check out?
I think I'm gonna go to Bainbridge Island and meet up with a friend to try this fish place that apparently has like the best giant like fish sticks. The name of the place is escaping me, but if you're a foodie, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about.
Is it Proper Fish?
That's the one. Yeah,
I've been there. It is so good.
Yeah, I'm like, I gotta go because I mean, the best like fried cod I've had like fresh was in Nia Bay. And when I hear people describe this place, it sounds like they got the next like best thing. I wanna see if I can have a fish that good again.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I feel like places that do just one thing tend to do it really
I love
well.
that. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Very true.
Yep.
All right, I want to shout out that Hinton Publishing is doing a 10 Things I Hate About You screening at the
Oh my
Northwest
God.
Film
Yay!
Forum. I feel like I'm taking Marcus's thunder a little bit. It's
Not
at
at all.
7 p.m. I mean, I haven't seen it on the big screen in so long. And sadly, I'm actually going to be out of town. But if you're in town, go see it on
Yes, please do.
Saturday at 7 p.m. I also wanted to shout out Gear House on behalf of our CityCast Seattle neighbor, Igor. Igor says it's an amazing community and a great way to explore the outdoors in this beautiful state we live in. So if you don't already know Gear House, they do classes, workshops, and most importantly, they rent gear out to folks because getting outdoors often can get so expensive if you're trying to buy your own gear. So they currently are renting snow
that's so
gear.
cool.
So like skis, snowboards. I've also seen in the summer they do backpacking gear, which can also get quite pricey. So if you're interested in that and you want to take a class with them or just like meet other outdoorsy people, you can go to joingearhouse.com. And thank you, Igor, for joining us as a neighbor and for shouting out this place that you love. Lex Vaughn, founder of the Needling, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And Marcus Harrison Green, founder of the South Seattle Emerald, thank you for being here.
Highlight of my life, Jane.
I'm your host, Jane C. Hu. Our executive producer is Ashley Smith. Our creative producers are Sam J. Leeds and Liam Billingham. Post-production this week was done by PJ Shahamat. Our audience development manager is Ben Keenan. Music is by Aaron Taylor Waldman, All the Kimonos, and Los Mocochetes, with additional mixing by Tyler Lindgren. Our ad music is by Sven Lindvall and Sarah, the instrumentalist from Epidemic Sounds via Getty Images. And listeners, thank you, as always, for joining us. Send us your news tips, your questions, your hot goss. Someone actually slid into our Instagram DMs with some hot goss, and I really appreciated that. So please check us out either on Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky. Send us a DM. You can send us an email at seattle@citycast.fm. You can text us or leave us a voicemail at 206-880-3931. And I hope you all have a great weekend. Until next week, see you, Seattle.